Hello, welcome back to Jesse's Vintage Garage, and here we are. We got the '68 front frame half here up on the lift. We're getting ready to start assembling the frame assembly. Well, that's pretty much what we're going to be doing in this video. And I got a lot of the parts laid out here that we're going to be needing, like rear frame group, and then we have the swing arm stuff, and the front frame group stuff here, and some more engine mounting and foot mounting stuff, peg mounting stuff. But we're gonna need some of these when we go to fill these holes in here. We'll probably get them all this stuff where we need it at in here, and we'll mount the swing arm and the rear frame section also on this video. We'll see how far we get. We're gonna work on trying to make the video shorter this time, and maybe so draw it out. And if you need to find something particularly, you don't have to watch the whole video to find something. So maybe we can break it up that way. So bear with me on that change here maybe, and we'll see how it all gets together at the end. All right, so kind of the first step is getting this swing arm in because the rear frame doesn't quite fit. This is wider than the rear frame, so it has to come down in front later. We can't run this through the rear frame. So this is the next step when you start working on the front half. So when I took this apart to clean it up so we could repaint it, I came across one of the bushing pieces here, pitted pretty bad. So I decided to get two new ones just to put them in. The bearings or the bushings inside there are in really good shape. It was full of grease yet, but it wasn't going to take anymore because I can't get the little ball here to move on this grease zerk, so it wouldn't take no more anyway. So we're going to clean it out, put new grease in. We'll be using this Mystic JT-6 here, high temp grease, and and then so I got new grease fitting here, and a fiber washer like original. Here's the original fiber washer. And these plates cleaned up pretty good. I didn't have to sand on them or anything because they have original zinc finish. And if I would have sanded on them, it would have been raw metal then, and I would have replaced them because they would have got rusty. Got a new clip. We probably could have used the old one. I had it laying here, but it didn't have much life left in it. We'll be reusing the main bolt, the nut, the distance piece, the middle spacer. Got new O-rings for these covers. So let's go ahead and just get this assembled and put it together, put it on the frame. So I guess first off we kind of just grease the stuff and pop these bushings in. The front frame section has a spot where this actually threads into. So you can only put this swing arm bolt axle in one way. And then when you lock it down with this nut, and then you flip these over when one of the flats lines up. And then we just pop this in. It's pretty straightforward, but we'll go over it here. We'll lube these O-rings up and set them in here. They fit just right. I don't think we have an X-ring that's this size. Otherwise, we were thinking about running X-rings, but I'll double check all that right now. So here's the O-ring and here's the X-ring. X-ring's a little bit smaller, but it makes more of a tight grip on the swing arm here. And that's where this X-ring might shine because of the fact that it'll hold it still. There's nothing holding it from going inward or to fall off. These pieces here are pretty much keeping them from going outward and kind of maintaining them in there. So it's kind of nice here. We can just barely slightly work it around, and then the cover just pops on. So when you're putting this in, make sure the distance piece is in there. And these metal bushing parts, they go with the recessed edge inward for the distance piece to sit inside here, this channel.
Oops, I had it. There, it's just perfect.
Yeah, and part number for that, or I think the size chart for that one was 223N70Q.
I'm going to put a little grease around this lip so it's not dry. Because that's the only grease it'll ever get.
Yeah, because when the zerk gets fed, it fills the inside up, the distance tube, everything in there, and keeping it protected and lubed, protected from moisture and all that stuff.
popped it off. Yes. Thought we had it on there once. Grease really helped, didn't it?
It's making it slick. Won't let it stay. But yeah, it pivots on that that O-ring or the X-ring that we're using, so it needs to have lube of some type on it.
You bugger.
We're gonna work on getting that in there. It might take a little bit.
Maybe we're gonna use the O-ring.
All right, we got the caps on, but we did end up going with the O-ring. It just, we couldn't get the X-ring to fit very well. If you want to try that out there, you go ahead for it. But it originally was an O-ring, and I think we'll be okay here. And it's just, it fits really good in there. There isn't really nothing keeping it in, but I don't know if it's going to go anywhere really anyway. So we're ready to slide the axle part through and get it on the frame. We got to line up the distance tube in there, but other than that, it's pretty much straightforward here with this. We got the bolt in, the axle in, and we started threading in the other side. It comes in from the right side, and it's 7/8 on the head here. Right. And I'm checking. No, I think this is. No, it's too big. Anyways, it's 7/8, and you just start to thread it. And just make sure it's kind of a tight fit, because that's what gives you your I don't know what you want to call it, the free play is set pretty much right. Then we got to make sure we tighten this down a certain amount. That way this whole casted piece here doesn't like get pinched too tight, and it can still do this kind of stuff. So I dug through the manual a little bit, found the rear swing arm and rear suspension, or rear fork, whatever you want to call it. It talks about it here, putting it back together. It just says everything we've done so far. I can't find torque specs, so we're going to just tighten it up. And I looked in the beginning of this section and I didn't see any torque specs there either. But just double check real quick here. Yeah, here's the beginning of the section. It talks about oil capacities and stuff. Yeah, sometimes they put the settings in the beginning. But anyway, we're gonna put it together. It talks about the tab washer in this position so you can bend it, and then just that's pretty much it. Then it says to hang the suspension units, which you're talking about, the shocks. So, but we're gonna put the rear frame on next. So let's go ahead and tighten this up. This is how it sits in there. We lock these parts. This is how we're gonna do it anyway, for sure. I think this is how it looks in the print. But we take this lock tab washer, you bend these longer ones out here up to the frame on both sides, and then we tighten this nut down. Then we fold these two up, locking the nut, and it's split like that. So in case you end up on a point, you can still fold both ways. So now we're ready to tighten it up. There we are. We got it all folded over and on the point here. Let's see that. There we go. There's focus. There we go. Locks it just like that. All right. I'm ready to put the rear section on here. We now have the rear frame section on. It's kind of just sitting here. I got the hardware kind of in place as it's supposed to be on all the different areas. Now we put it in this way because we felt that if we would have put this on first, we would have had a hard time tightening this up and everything and getting that stuff. You can do it either way. You can try it that way, and it might be in your way or it might not be. We just didn't want to risk it. And anyway, to get the rear section on after the swing arm, you got to kind of come in at an angle and then put it down inside there, because you can't slide onto this way because it's too wide. And like I said, I got the engine hardware sitting in place here, ready to accept the motor bottom end, and just we got to tighten all this stuff up yet. But I got all the proper hardware in here like it's supposed to be, the right direction according to the manual and the parts book. And yeah, just ready to kind of go forward here. Now the next step is we're gonna lift this up and down as we're lubing the swing arm here, filling it up with grease, and then we'll be able to put the shocks on.
Let's see if I can get it to go first. Yeah, okay.
Just move it a little bit now and then.
Just wait here. It's got to fill up around the tube. And when it gets kind of stiff, we'll know.
I mean, those metal things do have holes for lube, but yeah, we want to make sure that. I mean, we did put lube around it before we put them in too. I mean, but.
Holds a lot of grease.
Yeah, it's a big area.
Big open area. If you don't fill it with grease, it'll fill with moisture.
Yeah, just from condensation or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not leaking out anywhere yet, I see.
Well, it should get stuck. Run out of grease.
Yeah, takes quite a bit. Oh, there we go.
There, getting hard. Okay, now you need to move it back and forth a few times. Okay, hold it.
Yeah, I can see you're struggling
Okay,
to put it in
move
now.
a little bit.
Yeah, you can tell it's filling up.
Yeah, it's starting to come out.
Yeah, it's starting to come out top too. So yeah,
Okay, so we're done.
we know it got through. We gotta clean it up. After the grease started coming out around the O-ring here, it actually popped the O-ring back out. So if that happens, make sure you push it back in. This style went on to 70, and then they changed it again in 71, and it got kind of even weirder. This is kind of like, I don't know, it's not as great as it could be, or it should be, but it works, I guess. It's not as nice as a Norton setup, but anyway, yeah, just make sure you get the O-ring back in there, or X-ring, whatever you decide to run, but that should do it. It's nice new grease in there, and it's ready for the road. The swing arm is. So, yeah, now we'll flip it back up on its top, and put the shocks on. So as we're getting ready to put the shocks on, I'm sitting here, we got the bridge brace here for the rear fender. It's bent a certain way. It kind of tilts forward as it goes. It's very important. It's kind of like, you can kind of see the angle here with it, but make sure that tilt or whatever is going forward, because the curvature of the fender needs to sit like this. And don't forget these down here. This probably should have been put in before the swing arm was. Sorry about that, but the bolt that's right here is 3/8 to 1/2 inch, and it's just long enough to fit in there. And probably because if there was any sort of problem, they can replace this or back it out without having to tear the whole bike apart. But it would have been easier to put it in before, but in hindsight, it did fit, and we got it all together here. And I did go with stainless on those bolts. So that's like the only bolt that is 5/16 24 on the 68. So just want to point that out too, because this thing is riddled with all different size TPIs, threads per inch bolts. All right, we're gonna put the lower bolt in the shocks here. You want to try to do the other side?
Yeah.
Kind of almost need to go together, because I'm banging around. There we go.
Had to turn it a little.
There we go. And then lock washer and nut. We won't tighten this quite yet, but that's how it goes together. Here we are, we got the center stand installed. We tied a ratchet strap around the swing arm here and had a leverage point there, and then we tied around the swing arm or the center stand here and pulled it, and we were able to pop it up, and then we made sure that the washer, flat washer was there, and we slid it through and then started threading it. And on both sides here, now there is like no clearance here for this nut, so you got to start the tab, the lock washer here, and then start threading this nut as you're cranking this bolt in. It's really a pain in the butt, and there's barely any clearance for it, but we got it down. You tighten this to the tightness you want, because this center stand here is threaded, and it gives you your flex, your free play, your movement looseness when it rotates here. So once you have that established, how loose you want it to be, but not too loose, but not too tight, then you start tightening this. You got this tight, and then you fold over your locking tab here to the center stand. Then you tighten down the nut, because that locks this all together. Then you fold the other part of the lock tab up to the nut. So it's quite the little deal there, but it's pretty nice when it's all set up. It works really well. So we'll set this back up and go over a couple other things we've finished up here. So we got the hardware here on the top of the shocks here on the back side. I didn't point that out, but it was a flat washer, a lock washer, then the hex nut. This is all left loose because we got to fit the fender, and it's got to be at the right angle when it gets tightened down. We don't want to tighten this down now and have to loosen it back up and move it later. And this part here is slotted here, so it can raise up and down as well. So that's an important key, that leaving it loose. So that means there's a lot of flexibility on being able to move it here for adjustment. The other thing we finished up installing was the fork stops here. The original ones with the frame were kind of rusty and kind of nasty looking. They would have worked fine. It just, they didn't look good. But one of them was slightly bent a little bit. I don't remember if it was which side it was, but it was just a little bit. But it's okay. A lot of times bikes would just hit them really hard, or moving them back and forth, and just move it a little bit. And it doesn't take much. These are pretty weak kind of things anyway. So anyway, we're gonna come to the end here on this part of putting it together, because the next steps will be probably putting the front end on and working on the wheels, and then probably the bottom end, of course. So I hope you enjoyed everything, and we'll see you again soon.